So this month, we have been looking at spiritual mind treatment, which is another way of saying a positive prayer. There are 5 steps in the treatment. And so this being the last Sunday of the month, we are on step number 5, which is the final step. And it's the step where you are to release. So our practitioners this morning will be talking about how they release, how they look at that step, and how that impacts their lives. Let me tell you about our first speaker this morning. Dhamana Shauri is an outreach practitioner at Creative Living Fellowship. She has been involved in religious science for more than 30 years. She has been a board member, provided Sunday lessons, taught accredited classes, and facilitated workshops at the religious science centers she's been affiliated with. Dhamana currently resides in Chicago, where she is a licensed practitioner at the Oak Park Church of Religious Science. Would you please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dhamana Shauri?
Thank you, Carrie. The phrase letting go might have a negative connotation for you. The implication being that you're giving up or losing something, somehow depriving yourself. In a cultural climate of give me, give me, give me, and I want more, 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 letting go may sound like you're depriving yourself or making a huge sacrifice. But in the context of spiritual mind treatment, the words take on a completely different meaning. The 5th step of treatment release is letting go of the treatment and knowing that the law does the work to manifest your desire. Letting go is really an act of faith, where you rest in calm assurance and know that you have done your part. You have stated and affirmed your desire, and then you release that desire knowing it's done. There are different ways to release something. There's the example of being released from the hospital after a medical procedure. You receive an aftercare plan and instructions on how to take care of yourself until you heal. You're told what's likely to happen, as well as things to look for that might be a cause for concern. And with this kind of release, the hospital also releases or gives up responsibility for you and your care. You're on your own at that point. But unlike someone being released from the hospital, when you do a spiritual mind treatment, you are not on your own to figure out what's going to happen or to make anything happen. By the time you get to the release step, your work is done. The universe doesn't drop you off and leave you alone to figure out the details. How is not your concern. As we say, how is none of my business. You've declared your desire. You've recognized the source, the one source. You've acknowledged your unification with that individualization of the power. You have affirmed the realization of your desire, the qualities of it, the feelings and experiences that it evokes. You've stood in that experience. You've lived in it and you've lived from it. You've given thanks for your good and accepted it as already having been received. You've done your spiritual work. When we release, we let it go. We've done our part. As we say, God's got our back, and the full power of universal principle supports the manifestation of our desire. Our work is simply to know that we deserve our good and that our good takes nothing away from anyone. And we welcome it into our life. We know that the law is demonstrating it on the physical plane. It's a done deal. Like Ricky Bibi reminds us, I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Looking at the process of how things unfold, let's think about what happens when we bake something. When we're baking a cake, we may open the oven and check on it every once in a while to see how it's doing. Unlike a cake in the oven, we don't go back to check on the status of our treatment. We might check on the cake for a number of reasons. Because we aren't sure of the accuracy of the oven. Maybe we want to make sure it's not undercooked or overcooked. We might check on the cake because we forgot what time we put it in the oven, or simply because we want to admire our beautiful creation. And that's fine when it comes to a cake. But with treatment, we don't wonder or doubt or second guess. We simply know. We don't wonder if our treatment is unfolding or allow doubt and worry to creep in. And Think Your Troubles Away, Ernest Holmes advises that we must resist the temptation to give our spiritual mind treatment and then steal it back and see if it's taking root. If your treatment includes doubt, so will your demonstration. It's similar to having a garden. When you plant a row of cucumber seeds, you know a cucumber plant is going to come through the dirt. You don't doubt that. You don't dig it up every few days to see how it's doing. You know how it's doing because you understand the growth process. You know that nature is growing your plant with perfection. And you know that you'll see that plant in due time. And what you'll see is a cucumber, because that's what you planted in the soil. You don't wonder whether a zucchini or squash will grow. You know that's an impossibility. Nature grows your seeds, and she will grow something that you planted, not something different. So it's up to us to give the fertile soil what we want to demonstrate. You are so certain that nature is doing her job that you go ahead and you tell all your friends and relatives what crops you'll be able to share with them in a few weeks. You don't tell anybody, well, I planted some stuff in the garden, but I don't have a clue what's going to come up. I'll just have to see. You have faith, the same faith and certainty we have about our treatment. Just as we know that nature knows how to grow a cucumber from a cucumber seed, we must also know that the law knows how to manifest our desire from the mind seeds, the ideas that we've planted. That's why we must be very clear what we give to the law. Just like you can make plans about the meals you're going to create with those veggies that have not yet grown out of the ground yet, you can also plan the activities you're going to enjoy as your desire unfolds. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said of this teaching, it might not be easy, but it's simple, like planting cucumber seeds to get a cucumber plant. Sometimes we get caught up in the not knowingness of spiritual work or of a spiritual mind treatment. With plants, there are volumes of evidence to prove that the process works. We can find examples of Mother Nature's work all over every single day. We know that trees, grass, flowers all materialize from the same process. And we learn all about that process in school. Our teachers teach it, and we create science experiments that prove it. We don't doubt it. And thinking about what teachers teach, imagine a world where spiritual mind treatment is also a part of the curriculum. We know that Mother Nature's laws work. Knowing that spiritual mind treatment works requires a little more of us. It requires faith. It requires us to believe in a treatment the same way we believe that acorns grow oak trees and the way we believe chickens lay eggs instead of having babies. Faith. In the good book, Matthew 17:20 says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. And until we have that kind of faith, that is our work, to develop it, to believe it. When we move into our statement of release, we are already in appreciation of the desired good. We stand in faith and we believe that it's done. You believe the same way you believe that your house or apartment will be there when you return home today. You have no doubts about that. You don't have one fear that you're going to find a gaping hole in the ground where your home once stood. You know it'll be there. We must know that the law will work. We don't doubt that our oven will bake a cake. We don't doubt that cucumbers grow from cucumber seeds, that acorns create oak trees, or that the sun will be in the eastern sky in the morning. We know. Faith, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith in that mind seed that we plant. Faith in the fertile field in which we have planted our mind seeds. Faith in the law to do the work. Let us nurture and maintain that rock hard faith that assures us all of these things, that it works. Faith that assures us that we can do our spiritual work and then simply release our desire. Let it go and know that it is done. Faith can move mountains. Your faith can demonstrate your desires if you believe. With deep gratitude, I release my words to the action of the law, knowing it is already done. The law always, only, and ever says yes. I release and I let go. And so it is. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about fellow practitioner Fran Peck, who will continue our Sunday lesson. Fran Peck began studying and practicing the teachings of Ernest Holmes in the 1980s. Religious science practitioners are an instrumental part of her daily life. Fran completed practitioner studies in 2018 and completed her animal chaplain credential in 2019. She has served in many roles at Creative Living Fellowship over the years. And I am honored to introduce to you Fran Peck.
Thank you, Dhamana. Thank you so much. So our topic this week is let it go, release, the fifth step of treatment. I'm going to remind us of the first four before I go into my message. The first step of treatment is recognition. That is recognizing that there is a power and a presence greater than we are. The second step is unification, and that is unifying with that knowing, with that power, with that presence. Just knowing that power and that presence is our very life. And then that takes us to the third step of treatment, which is realization. And that is realizing that whatever we desire is already done in the one mind of spirit. That we can have the desires of our heart and be grateful for it, which is the fourth step, gratitude and thanksgiving. Gratitude and thanksgiving for this knowing, gratitude and thanksgiving for living, being part of this one. And then in that gratitude, we release our word, we release our prayer, we release our treatment into that universal law that only knows yes. So how do I, as a practitioner, practice our fifth step of treatment? And how do we, as practitioners, since we are all practitioners, if we practice the principles of the science of mind, how do we practice releasing? Well, I'm going to submit to you every moment of every day, since every thought is a prayer. If we are praying without ceasing, then our thoughts are constantly released into the law, into that divine creative medium. Everything we think, everything we feel flows into that creative medium. So each thought is released, whether we realize it or not. Ernest Holmes reminds us to be conscious of our releasing, to consciously release into the law only that which we desire to experience. He reminds us to guard our thoughts. I had a friend who every time they drove, they complained about slow drivers in the fast lane. Put that thought out into the universal law. So guess what they attracted? Slow drivers in the fast lane. We must be mindful of the thoughts that we are releasing. We also release when we surrender to that power and presence that is greater than we are and recognize even what we're experiencing is all good with a capital G, as in God. We put our thoughts into the universal law and the universe responds. It has no choice. We have a choice. Our yes, our response to the universe is a choice. And we must be willing. We must be willing to choose. We must be willing to accept that that universe is all good. My first real conscious recollection of consciously releasing and letting go to a power and a presence greater than myself was when I found out I was going to be a parent, and a single one at that. Now, anyone who is a parent will tell you that parenting is a constant let it go moment. From the birth through the teens and even beyond. I can attest, I spent many a prayer, many a spiritual mind treatment as a parent, just getting my son through his teens. It was not in my outline to be a parent. And how that came about is a message for another day, but it sort of involves the animal chaplain side, okay? But I knew if the universe brought this into my experience that there was a reason, and it was only for good. And now, more than 40 years later, I have a grandson. Never occurred to me that would happen. The joy of surrender, right? In our releasing, we must believe that there is a power and presence greater than whatever the experience or condition may be. And Holmes tells us to approach this power simply and directly and easily because it is right here within us. There is no spot where God is not. One morning, sitting in my quiet time, my meditation time, I heard that still small voice that sometimes isn't always so still or small, say that it was sending someone. It had a partner for me. I said, really? Because I'm not looking. The universe said, you don't have to look. You've already put it out there. I chuckled and said, I can't wait to see how you pull that off, because I'm also training dogs 3 times a week, so I don't have time. Then about 6 months later, Ernie Peck showed up and later changed my name and adopted my son. I wasn't looking, but he was right here all the time. And because of that, yes, we moved to Nebraska and I finished college. And ultimately, I'm here in Phoenix because we moved here for his employment. Every experience, every yes, was setting me up for my next greatest good. I have and do work in industries doing what I love. I worked on 2 hurricane grants serving thousands of people. I love my current job, and the universe just brought it to me out of the blue, just out of the blue. Just releasing and just being open to it, just out of the blue. I wake up every morning grateful and looking forward to the day. And I start my morning in spiritual practice every single morning, every day. Being open to the guidance of spirit led me to Creative Living Fellowship, which is a huge part of my life and has been now for several years, leading me to become a practitioner and an animal chaplain. That never occurred to me. That wasn't in my outline. I was just open to the guidance and released it to the universe. And the universe said yes. Each yes, each release, each let it go moment into the universal law took me up yet another rung in the evolutionary and spiritual spiral. Every place I've been, everything I've done has been the universe working for my good. Back of all things, that source, that power, that presence, that life that is my life and the life of each of us. I don't know what I would have done without these teachings. I don't know where I would be without these teachings. I have been living these teachings for, well, now going on probably 40 years. Only recently, really appreciating these teachings and deepening into these teachings. And it is because of Creative Living Fellowship that I'm able to do that. And I'm able to serve this community. And in that, I love it. So I want to leave us with this Ernest Holmes quote before we go into prayer. This is from the Science of Mind textbook. Spirit then is all there is at this very hour, and all creation is spiritual. The universe is a spiritual system impregnated with divine ideas and peopled with spiritual forms. The ideas of God are perfect law on their way to producing complete and perfect effects. The universe is alive, conscious, awake, and aware. It is love and life. It is law and order. It is a cosmos. So now I invite you to take a breath and turn within and join me for prayer. Just breathing into the awareness, the recognition of that one power, that one presence, that one divine energy, that one that is the source of us all. It is the source of my being. It is my breath. It is my life. It lives, moves, has its being, and expresses uniquely and individually as me. And it expresses uniquely and individually as each and every one of its creation. It is life giving life unto itself. And so very blessed to know this truth. I bless our time. I bless the Creative Living Fellowship. I bless each and every one of our congregation, knowing that they are blessings to the greater community. I know that these teachings and the use of these teachings in our lives ever uplifts us and takes us ever higher in that ever expanding spiritual spiral. I bless everyone around this planet. I bless everyone who needs a prayer today, knowing that the power and the presence of that great comforter is right in the midst of everything going on. Every experience, every condition. I know that that power and that presence, that divine energy heals, uplifts, and comforts. And I bless Reverend Dr. Sherry, knowing that she enjoys her day. And so as I send us out into the rest of our day, the rest of our week, I do so in profound gratitude for these teachings, for this word spoken, and how this teaching and these words operate in my life and the life of each of us. And so I send us out knowing that we are divinely guided. We are ever divinely guarded, and we are always divinely inspired. And I say, thank you, life. Thank you, God. And so it is.